the entire industry and I think the entire world is very competitive at the moment. And well, if I can give one message, I'm like, the one thing that you really need to be doing is focusing on one person, which is you. Focus on your journey, what feels good for you, and um, then you know what your next steps should be, because otherwise you are never able to enjoy anything that you're doing in your career or any goal that you have accomplished. So it
And
really definitely takes its
that's
toll on
so
mental health.
true. Hey everybody, welcome to the Being Different show. Our goal with this show is to introduce you to people and ideas that can help you improve the quality of your life. Our guest today is an amazing person who is known for her journalistic work in the music industry. She has worked with leading artists such as Richie Hotwin, Ermin Van Buren, Nile Rodgers, will.i.am, Carl Cox, Boy George, and Avicii. She has worked as a film producer, an event moderator, and an award show host, and has been DJing internationally under her techno moniker Siren since 2011. She's passionate about sharing her own story in the fast paced music industry and the importance of setting boundaries to avoid excessive stress, fatigue, and burnout. She believes in having meaningful conversations with leading and ambitious change makers whose stories can help mitigate the effects that excessive ambition can have on mental health. So, guys, please help me in welcoming the woman who is on a mission to end stigma on mental health in and outside the music industry, Renske Van Kollenburg. I'm so happy to have you on the show, Renske.
Wow, thank you, Ayush, for your introduction. Normally, it's me doing the introductions because I do interview work a lot, so it's a bit funny to be on the other side now.
Yeah,
Thank you, but thank
exactly.
you so much. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. And Renske, since you actively talk about mental health in and outside the music industry, why do you think it's so crucial to even talk about mental health in the first place?
I think the answer is as simple as this. I have so many dreams and visions to make the world a better place, so to say. Like, I think a lot of people want to see the world at its best, and I do believe that starts with a healthy mind, because healthy minds make healthy choices. So if you want to start somewhere, start with yourself, start with your mind, nourish it, and I think it's that's the solution to everything.
And that's so crucial to be in a place. We talk about health all the times, but we fail to talk about how mental health is so important and it's a key aspect of our personality. So,
Definitely.
what was that point in your life where you started taking care of your mental health and started talking about it in general?
Hmm. I think I have been. I think it's a journey. Everybody that starts taking care of their mental health, maybe even doesn't start with it super consciously. I think that comes at a later time. But I think everybody of us experiences some mental health problems in their lives. If it's due to trauma, or if we lose somebody, maybe even heartache, or people that are really living in areas where there is um, um, no good healthcare systems, or people have financial struggles, or they are sick, or whatever it is in your life. Everybody gets his piece, I think, in life. So I started at a really young age, looking at things that were bothering me, that I thought I was behaving a bit differently than maybe people from my age. And so I think I've been taking care of my mental health since my teenage years. However, now I do it really more in a conscious way. And that actually, a huge burnout 3 years ago, um, definitely helped me becoming more and more conscious of my mind, of how do I treat myself, how do I manage my stress levels, do I really take care of myself, because I was starting to doing all the right things, which is eating healthy, seeing a physiotherapist for my physical therapist for my back, because I had really many back problems, which a lot of people with a lot of stress experience. I was taking vitamins and minerals and I was doing all the good stuff. I was thinking that, but what I didn't do was actually really go to the core, which was managing my stress levels and change the things that needed to be changing, that I needed to be changing in my life. Um, Also working in a high demanding industry like the music industry, I have seen so many colleagues struggling up to the point that some people, we had to say goodbye to some people, like Tim Berkling, whose artist name is Avicii. Actually, when we had to say goodbye to him, I was in the middle of my, healing of my burnout. I just came back from half a year, a break, didn't do anything in music at all, actually, because I just couldn't. So when I was at my worst, I had to say goodbye to one of my dearest colleagues that I worked with in the industry, and that was such a shock. And I really decided, okay, I want to help break the stigma on mental health issues in the music industry and outside. But the music industry, that's where my expertise is, and my network and my passion and my knowledge. And I really love the music industry, but we need to make some changes when it comes to mental health. So um, I started also to take on public speaking besides my DJing and interviewing career, and that's taking its own course, especially now during the pandemic, where I'm not active as a DJ, and I'm super focused and motivated to take this to a next level. So yeah, again, it's just super, super important to break taboos on mental health issues, because at one point, and everybody is dealing with it, and some people up to a certain degree that they just don't want to live anymore, which um, shouldn't be the case. We really need to be here for each other, and we really need to be here for ourselves first and foremost, and also feel that we are supported and feel that we are not alone in this.
It's pretty sad to hear about Avicii's suicide, and how so many great people like Avicii commit suicide just because they're not in a good mental space.
Hmm.
What exactly goes on behind the music industry? What's the what really caused this suicide? I mean, not exactly, but what causes the mental problems in people's head?
I think for every person it's different. However, the external factors that are influencing your mental health in the music industry pre-COVID were touring schedules, lack of sleep, anxiety because you have to be on stage all the time. You're pushing your boundaries to every level, to every extent, because you want to be there for your crowd or for your manager or for your agent, for your fans. And especially for a person like Avicii, I mean, the level that he was performing at, it was like, for me, it's a few hundred people maybe that are, if I miss my gig, but he felt the pressure for thousands of people, millions around the world, to be there for them and the team that was working for him. So lack of sleep, I don't know if I mentioned that already, but that really is scientifically proven to really have a deep impact on your mental and physical health. Addiction plays a big part of it, because what we work in an industry where our office is, where we perform on a stage, is where other people let go, where alcohol and drug intake is very normal. So when you're anxious or you're really tired or you have to push yourself to the next level, remember, we are not with a band. DJs are very solistic beings. Uh, so the contrast is huge. At one point, you are performing for hundreds or thousands of people. And then you're back in your hotel room and traveling by yourself. Some people that can afford it, they travel with a team or with a tour manager at least. But for most artists, they travel by themselves. So it's up and down when it comes to adrenaline, stress, anxiety, loneliness. So addiction plays a big part of it as well. um, it's just it's really challenging to, and you have to be a really strong person to really stay sane and healthy and balanced, and to be able to set your boundaries in an industry like the music industry. And um, now during COVID, we have another, the problem has shifted to loneliness, lack of motivation. Like, oh my God, why would I get out of bed? Because I was in the studio, also like out of passion, but also to get to your next gig, to stay relevant. A lot of people that are in the industry for a long time, they don't know how to do anything else. This is their, they're losing their identities. They were this huge event promoter or a manager or an artist, and um, livelihoods are being threatened, right? Income, lack of income. So it's a lot of extra stress. So maybe even now it might be even more important now to talk about mental health on a world scale than before. So yeah, I definitely feel that we need to be there for each other more than ever.
You actually brought an interesting point about how there's expectations set and then you need to be able to meet them. That kind of builds that anxiety and mental pressure. You know, when I think of it in terms of the Gen Z world, it's more like social media is creating those expectations. And I
Mhm.
don't want to blame social media, but the kind of culture that we are promoting is hustle culture, and that everyone needs to work for these many hours. You need to cut down on your sleep and all of that. How do you think is affecting to younger generation all of this?
Oh, it's affecting younger generations and older generations. uh, to a deep level. So, like subconsciously, they have no idea what's happening to them. How um, compare yourself to anybody else? I think we've all done it, right? Compare yourself, and in comparison really makes people depressed or having a lack of self-esteem. Or even if you reach your goals, you're always looking up to another person who have reached their goals or bigger goals, or um, which is why a lot of people are putting themselves down all the time. Um, it's really making people depressed and more anxious to have to enjoy their success and their career, which is a journey. It's not there. This is success. It's actually also scientifically proven that people that um, it's not that success that brings happiness, but if you are in a state of happiness, you experience success. Um, and um, yeah, the entire industry, and I think the entire world is very competitive at the moment. And well, if I can give one message, I'm like, the one thing that you really need to be doing is focusing on one person, which is you. Focus on your journey, what feels good for you, and um, then you know what your next steps should be, because otherwise you are never able to enjoy anything that you're doing in your career or any goal that you have accomplished. So it really definitely takes its
That's
toll on
so
mental
true.
health.
I mean, when you talk about social comparison, that is one of the biggest problems that people have when it comes to uh, their own mental health. People start comparing themselves with the other person. And since I've been into Indian education system and how competitive it is, in especially in high school, I've seen a couple of people committing suicide in my school, and that is really sad to witness a thing like that. I mean, since I've also been through those phases, and I was able to recover well, because I was comparing myself, and I was kind of thinking I'm not good enough, I'm not like meeting their expectations. But after a point when I started working on my mental health and being able to journal properly, and that way journaling plays an important role as well. I started journaling my thoughts, and that gave rise to the poetry that I've written in my native language. And
Mm.
it was my expectation with the education system and how education system has failed me. And now I don't want to let education system further ruin my life. And
Hmm.
and it's interesting to see how all of us tend to compare ourselves with others. How do you think we can change that and build super consciousness around that so that people are more likely to not compare themselves with people?
My advice is really take care of your social media intake. Really take care of your mind, everything that you are consuming on a daily basis, even with television shows or with books that you read or even the people that you hang out with. Um, I think you need to be taking care of any intake that you have, like everything that you consume, from food to, like I said, books, literature, television shows, social media accounts. You're putting it all in your system. So become aware of that. Who do you follow? Who triggers you? Stop following them. You can look up to people so they can motivate you, definitely in a good way. But if you notice that you only comparing yourself and it makes you feel depressed every time you open your social media, um, take care of yourself, set your boundaries, and be kind to yourself. But the biggest advice in this one is take your responsibility. Every choice that you take is affecting you. Every choice that you take in life, no choice is also a choice. So I would say, um, don't be too hard on yourself, but take responsibility of everything that you consume. Become aware of what it is that you are consuming on a daily basis.
And I find that very true on a very personal basis, because recently only I went to my social media, unfollowed all those people who weren't serving my energy and weren't fueling my energy. And so
Hmm.
when I stopped doing that immediately after like a few weeks, I started seeing myself in a better position in a way. When I'm using social media, I don't come like after using social media, I'm not in a position where I'm comparing myself to others. it's
Yeah.
either people it's either the people I talk to and I'm in connection with, who I bless, and who I really want to go, who I really want them to flourish in life. That doesn't mean I don't want other people, but it's human instinct. We live in survival basis. Our brain does that all the time. So it's really essential to build that consciousness around your social media usage.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
And you know how some people might look from outside might not represent their internal state of mental health. So, what's the message for other people so that they're kind to the people around them, because they don't know what someone is going through, even when they're smiling, their happiest times?
Yeah. True. I do believe that a lot of people go through the worst times in their lives without their environment knowing what's going on inside of them. That's, I think, a human tendency as well. So yeah, again, look around you and stop labeling each other. We have an opinion about something so easily, and just look what's behind that message, or what's behind the person is saying. Read between the lines. I think that is very, very important. Yeah.
Renske, you talk about setting boundaries in the music industry, or setting boundaries in general. What exactly do you mean?
I That's a topic that was very, very important to me, and I see it all the time around me in the music industry as well. But I think I also do keynotes outside the music industry, because I think it's applicable for everybody in anyone's life. So if it's with friends, your family, your working environment, towards yourself, set boundaries towards yourself, like maybe, for example, social media intake. But setting boundaries was a really hard thing for me to do, and that's because in my past, when I grew up, a lot of people close to me were crossing my boundaries all the time. So I think when you grow up like that as a child, you start believing that that's quite normal, even though you don't feel right about it, but you're not conscious enough to take care of yourself in that sense. So when I started to set my boundaries, really, how hard that was. But when I started to do that, that was actually when I was healing from my burnout and setting boundaries in a more conscious way. um, I started healing. I really was started to take care of myself. And that really implies getting to know yourself. Where are my boundaries? What in any situation, and how do I want other people to treat me? How do I want to treat myself? How do I take care of myself? How much work can I take on? Because I'm quite a sensitive person, and I need my sleep as well, which is not always handy in the music industry. Um, but I was comparing myself to people that are, maybe they have a natural state of more energy or less sensitive than I am. Or when I'm surrounded in big crowds, which I really missed my summer filled with festivals last summer due to COVID, but it's draining as well. I really have to regain my energy again. So also had to say goodbye, really had to cut ties with some people in my life, which was a very, very hard thing to do. Still is, but I needed to. I had no other choice. Life was forcing me to do that, to really started to heal. So in that sense, um, setting healthy boundaries for yourself, which is, by the way, an ongoing process. It's not that when you set your boundary, nobody else will cross it anymore, or nobody else will try to cross it anymore. And you yourself will also cross your own boundaries. Oh, I can take on that work, or I can do that project, or I can do that other gig, or I can do that. I don't know what kind of high demanding industry you work in. I think there's a lot of, corporate environments are really competitive as well. So you have to just be honest to yourself. What is it that I can take on, and what is it that I have to really, where I have to set my boundary, which is just not good for me mentally or physically.
Which also brings me to an interesting point of saying no, like just simply being able to say no to things, and how
Yeah.
incredibly difficult people find to just say no. They are so nice and say yes to literally everything.
Yeah.
But every time they say yes to something, they're saying to no to their own internal happiness, their own internal state of mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And that
you know,
happens a lot.
yeah, I literally find it. I mean, when I started saying no to things, it was such a liberating experience because you don't have to do the things that you don't want to do,
Mm,
and 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 that kind of releases you from mental prisons that you are kind of stuck in.
yeah,
And
definitely.
And you know how you talked about healing, and that kind of helped you heal, setting boundaries. How does one start healing if someone's already not in a good mental position? So how does one start that process of healing?
That was hard. It was really hard because I really pushed my boundaries up to the point that I just couldn't go on. I was already super burned out for, I think, 2 3 years. My surroundings already told me that if you're gonna go on like this, I'm gonna have to say hi to you next time when you're in a hospital. And I just didn't want to believe it. And I knew, I could feel that I was not in a good space. I was developing food allergies. I had no energy anymore to do anything that I wanted to do in life. I just had enough energy to go to the office and do my things to pay my bills, pay my mortgage. Music, there was hardly any energy left to do my music. I was I had anxiety, panic attacks. I couldn't even walk my dog in the park anymore at one point. I remember I had a gig, which was like an hour and a half drive from where I lived. And I had to call my best friend. I said, can you please? And believe me, those were not really nice times to drive somebody because it was like 5 a.m. in the morning or something. But for a DJ, that's quite normal. And I said, can you please, you have to drive me to my gig because I will make accidents. I just know that I can't, but I still wanted to do that gig. I was 40 kilos, was also had to go to the hospital with an emergency. They thought they had to remove my appendix. Um, but they could, when I arrived in the hospital, they did some tests and they were like, oh, we can't find anything. And 2 days later, believe it or not, I was back on a film set where I was doing a film production at that time. And I just went on until at one point I something snapped, and I was like, "Who am I fooling here? when if I really want to be doing what I'm passionate about in my life, I just can't. If I go on like this, I will never be able to reach my goals or do the things that I think are important in my life. And that made me just snap out of it at one time and stop doing everything that I was doing. And from then on, it was little steps. I went abroad for half a year to a place like an island where there that sounds very like heaven, which was not. I just made sure that I needed to be out of the environment that I was in. Um, and I still had to make money to take care of myself. So I did little gigs. There was not really a music industry on an island, as you can imagine, but still, I was trying to, do some little gigs in little bars or to be able to do my groceries. And that's where my healing started with little steps. That was just, um, in the beginning, I was really just happy that I could breathe, that I could walk, and that I could breathe. And that's what I did every day. I just walked and near the ocean, and I thought, I'm alive. I don't have a plan because I'm broken. I cannot do anything else. And slowly but surely, I think it took 5 months. 5 months, and then I was like, I regained some energy. I got passionate about things again. I was even back on that island setting up some projects and already thinking about the future. But it really takes, when I look back, and this is like 3 years ago, I left the Netherlands to do that, to start. I'm still on that journey because this is something that I really want everybody that is listening today or that is viewing this today. Um, the longer you keep going when you're already not in a good place, the longer your healing process will be. So please, I'm not a good example here. I'm really bad. I didn't set my boundaries. I made it worse for myself, and that's why I'm still I really have to take care of my energy levels. um I think it's, yeah, slowly but surely setting boundaries, looking at the things that you have created for yourself in your life. What gives you energy? Where is your energy drained? Where is there a balance? Because we all have to do some things in our lives or in our jobs that are not, a DJ is not only performing, right? A DJ has to also hustle and working in a competitive industry. So what are the things that I want to keep in my life, and what are the people that I want to keep in my life? How do I see myself from a year from now? What is it, and how do I create that for myself? Which starts with taking a proper look at where your energy is going in and out, and where to set your boundaries. Those were the most important things for me in my healing process.
So I mean, when we like try to make the most out of the day and hustle throughout the day, we tend to forget that in the long run, after 4 5 years, our health is not gonna be with us. So what are we
Mhm.
doing it for, and who are we doing it for? If we are not gonna be with us 5 6 years down the line, what's even the
Yeah.
point of hustling so hard now?
I think that's exactly why there are so many books written about exactly that topic I use, because um, how many successful people that have reached it all when it comes to success, which were what they defined as success before, which was maybe having that car or 3 cars, that house, that monthly income. And when they reached all that, they were burned out. They were just not happy. And that's where, that research comes in again. It's not your definition of success when it comes to material stuff that makes you happy. It sounds so cliche, but it's true. It's your happiness that brings success. So start doing the things that make you happy, and find out for yourself what that is exactly, what you suppose, because I believe that everybody on this planet is made for something. Everybody has specific talents. Everybody has um, certain things that they get triggered by, that they are passionate about, that and if you follow that, if you really have the guts to follow that that instinctive um, journey, that knowing that this is what you need to be doing in your life, then you will be supported in a weird way, which you have to have a big amount of trust for, which is what I can tell from my journey is sometimes it seems hopeless, like what am I doing? But just knowing that I am not good to be in an office in a corporate environment for like 8 hours a day. I'm good at it, but it burns me out. So indeed, when you are the people that are listening to us right now, I would want to say, like, if your life is really built on that hustle, that daily hustle, we all have to hustle, but the daily hustle, and you already know I'm not really happy with what I'm doing right now, then stop what you're doing and really start looking at what is it that I need, that I supposed to be doing in my life, because
You
it's not
know,
worth it. I tell
yeah,
everybody it's not worth it to lose yourself. It's not. Hmm.
definitely not. And you know how they say it's really important to know what you don't want to do as it is important to know what you want to do. And so, really
Mhm.
defining who you are not and what the things that you don't find your fuel in. It's really important to define that and set that boundary for yourself when you're even like saying yes to a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. You have to
And
say, so cliche, you have to say yes to yourself, right? That's the hardest thing that you can do for a lot of people. I think most of
mhm.
us. Yeah.
So, Renske, how do you think we can work on the preventive side of mental health, since this is something that I was reading a research from WHO in India. It said
Mhm.
on record 7.5% people suffer from mental health issues, which means India is like quite a big country, and the population is 1.3 billion, and
Hmm.
7.5% means more than 100 million people, which is quite interesting. So
So
how do we work on the preventive side?
um education, educate people. For me it is, I want to do my share with breaking taboos. Just talk about it as much as you can with break the taboos in industries where it wasn't really normal to talk about mental health, where a lot of pressure was really normal, like corporate environments, music industry, probably like any industry that you can think of, right? Schools, educated schools. um, because I do think that the educational systems are mostly focusing on not the wrong stuff, so to say, but we're missing something in our educational systems, which is, how do you take care of yourself? How do you follow what you think is important? Here you learn mathematics and languages and whatever that it is that you also need to learn, but also, how do you take care of yourself? How do you set your boundaries? Learn, if you teach people that from a younger age, they are really experiencing the benefits as a grown up. I am really convinced of that. So how do we do it? How do we prevent mental health? I don't think that we can prevent mental health issues, in general, because we're human beings. We have challenges. We experience traumatic experience, and um, but I think in um, preventing suicides and preventing that people are really um, not seeing the positive sides of life anymore, and are not able to bring their lives back onto a level that they feel fulfilled again, that they feel that they can deal with life's challenges, and that they can take on life as it comes. Um, Talk about it, educate people, talk about it as much as you can. A show like you, my keynotes, anybody that is adding to destigmatize the taboos on mental health issues is helping. So
That's very
And
beautifully put.
also opening up about it yourself. I think it's really, really difficult for people to be vulnerable in front of other people. But when I decided to share my story, and I've been asked about my story, I was like, yeah, if I am not able, if I'm not willing to be vulnerable in front of people, then how do I expect that from other people? So
Which is really essential. I mean, vulnerability is so courage. In the traditional society, we've defined it as weakness. But actually being able to be vulnerable, it's so much courage, it requires so much courage
yeah.
that that that's why people don't prefer being vulnerable, right? Most of the
Mm,
times. And that's why we need to normalize this stuff. That being vulnerable is okay, it's not a weakness.
definitely.
So before we wrap up this conversation, Renske, what's the message that you want to have, and what's the impact that you want to have on the world?
Whew, if there's one thing that I would love to do is just empowering people. I know I cannot, uh, change everything within, it's not in my power to do things about all the shit that is happening around us right now. For like, I cannot end COVID, right? But what we can do is, and which what I would like to do my share for, is empower others, empower people to take care of themselves, to not feel the effects of anything that is like a crisis like this, to regain perspective. Don't lose perspective on things, because then you feel hopeless and you don't have the motivation to get out of bed every day. So empowering people, and also deconditioning the limiting beliefs people have about themselves. I think so many people are so talented and they have something beautiful to bring in this world, and they have such limiting beliefs about themselves. And just empowering people will make them able to do their share. It doesn't end with me or you. If we enable another person to do the same thing, that person will be an example to their environment, and so on. And I think that's where it starts, to be there for others, and obviously keep doing the things that I feel that I need to be doing to destigmatize mental health issues. Definitely, that's definitely on my life's calendar. Yeah.
That's so incredibly put, and that the impact is exponential almost, if that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I see it as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Renske. It's been a pleasure having this critical and crucial conversation with you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and all the insights.